The air in the Arizona Territory didn't just get cold that night, it got mean. Lindsay Northrop, on her isolated ranch, heard the first wolf howl. Not a lonely cry, but a hungry, savage symphony. She didn't hesitate. Her father taught her to shoot before he taught her to bake, and out here, a steady hand was everything. She grabbed her Winchester. What she found wasn't just a pack of wolves, but a downed rider fighting for his life against impossible odds. This wasn't just a rescue. It was the first domino in a chain of events that would shake the entire territory to its core. The desert was a brutal teacher. 3 years ago, fever took her father, leaving Lindsay alone with a piece of land everyone else wanted. Every creak of the cabin, every whisper of wind she knew. And the sound now? That was the sound of death closing in. The wolves were organized, relentless. She moved, not towards the safety of her cabin, but into the fray. Her boots barely disturbed the dust as she navigated the moon-drenched darkness. Then, a terrified whinny, a human cry. She crested a rise and saw it. A man, surrounded, losing the fight. The alpha wolf had the horse by the throat. Lindsay raised her rifle. Crack! The alpha dropped. The pack faltered. Crack! Another wolf went down. Crack! A third crumpled. The remaining shadows vanished, leaving only silence, the man's ragged breaths, and his dying horse. Lindsay approached cautiously, rifle ready. He was a mess of blood and dirt, gashes everywhere, a brutal bite on his leg. His face, obscured by dark, matted hair, showed only a firm grip on his knife. "Don't move," she commanded. "The pack's gone." He grunted, tried to push up, and collapsed. She knelt. "I won't hurt you. Let me see." He turned his head slowly. Those eyes, dark, proud, filled with suspicion, but a fire burned deep within them. He wasn't from around here. No flashy cowboy gear, just practical buckskins. "That leg needs tending," she stated, ignoring his silence. "The horse is beyond help." A flicker of something, loss, crossed his face. "Can you stand?" she asked. He tried, swayed. Without thinking, she reached, steadied him. His skin was fever hot, his muscle like steel. He flinched, an animal recoil, but didn't pull away. "My cabin," she insisted. "You'll die out here. Your choice." He stared, assessing her, and then a barely perceptible nod. The knife fell. He leaned on her. The debt was paid for now. But Lindsay felt a chill. This was just the beginning. Getting him inside was a fight. He was heavy, every movement a fresh wave of pain. She settled him on her father's old cot. The cabin was simple, but it was home. The fever raged. Lindsay worked fast, a lantern casting dancing shadows. His thigh wound was a mess, deep, ragged, already swelling. Wolf bites were poison. Infection was the real enemy. As she cleaned him, she saw the burnished copper of his skin, the old scar on his jaw. No brand, no mark of origin. He was a ghost from the wilderness. She poured whiskey on the wound. He arched, a silent scream, but no sound escaped him. She bound the leg with fresh linen, applying salves her father learned from an old Puma woman. For 3 days he was lost. He mumbled in a language she recognized. Apache. Tensions were high, treaties broken, raids common. Harboring an Apache? That was treason, especially to men like Bart Corian, the cattle baron whose herds bordered the reservation. But Lindsay ignored the fear. A man was dying. Her conscience demanded she help. She spooned broth, cooled his brow. Sometimes, in his delirium, he thrashed, reaching for a weapon not there. Once, his eyes snapped open, focused on her with startling clarity, and he uttered a single, hostile word. She instinctively recoiled. Then, the fever pulled him back under. On the 4th day, the fever broke. She woke to find him sitting upright, eyes clear, watching her. He'd been watching for a while. The cabin hummed with unspoken questions. "The fever's passed," she said, her voice rough. She made coffee. "You were out for 3 days." He said nothing, just watched, still as a predator. His leg, though bound, seemed stronger. "My name is Lindsay Northrop. This is my land." She offered him coffee. He looked at the mug, then at her. "Cole," he said, his voice a low, rough baritone. A lie, she suspected, but one she'd accept. "Well, Cole," she replied, "you're lucky. Another hour and you'd have been buzzard bait." His eyes, meeting hers over the mug, held no gratitude, only a cold, calculating assessment. "You shoot well." "I have to," she said simply. The strained silence was thick. The days that followed were a strange dance of domesticity and tension. Cole was a man of few words. His answers clipped. He healed unnaturally fast. Within a week he was moving, his limp fading. He was never truly at rest, his eyes constantly scanning, reading the world around them like a secret language. He pointed to her Winchester. 1873. Good rifle. Heavy. "My father's," she offered. He nodded. "You are alone here." It wasn't a question. "I manage," she snapped, a defensive edge to her voice. "It is not a place for a woman alone." Anger flared. "This is my home. I was born here. I'll die here." A flicker of respect crossed his face. He said no more. Their uneasy peace was about to shatter. A week later, horses. Not the meandering pace of a prospector, but the purposeful beat of men on a mission. Cole was on his feet, tense, knife hilt in hand, melting into the shadows. "It's just the sheriff," she said, but a knot of anxiety tightened in her gut. Sheriff Brody was decent, but he walked a thin line, caught between the law and Bart Corian's suffocating influence. Brody reined in, his eyes sweeping the cabin. "Morning, Lindsay. Heard some shooting. Everything all right?" He noticed the wolf hide. "Just a wolf pack," she replied, blocking the doorway. "I handled it." Brody nodded, but his eyes were sharp. "Corian lost cattle on the North Range. Blaming the Apache, of course." Lindsay's stomach dropped. "Corian blames the Apache if the wind blows." "Maybe so," Brody said, his gaze unwavering. "But you're a long way out here. Not safe. Especially if you're entertaining guests." His eyes flicked to the cabin door. He knew. "I can take care of myself, Sheriff." "I hope so," he said, turning his horse. "Because if Corian's men find an Apache warrior healing in your cabin, they won't wait for a trial, and they won't care who gets caught in the crossfire. Be careful." He rode off, leaving a cloud of dust and a silence that felt deafening. Lindsay went inside. Cole stood where she left him. The air crackled. Her secret was out, and the world was closing in. The sheriff's warning hung heavy, poisoning the fragile peace. Cole, now almost fully recovered, was a restless shadow, staring endlessly at the distant mountains. Lindsay knew he had to go, but every ticking moment he stayed, the danger multiplied. She'd saved him, tended him, and in the quiet shared hours, something beyond fear had grown between them. She saw a man of dignity, not the savage caricature peddled in town. But she didn't even know his real name, or why he was here. The real confrontation arrived not with the sheriff's caution, but with Corian's arrogant dust. Bart Corian rode in like he owned the air, flanked by Flint Maddox, his cold-eyed foreman, and another hired gun. Maddox was a snake, hand never far from his Colt. Corian himself was a bull in a fancy suit, a man who owned half the town and wanted Lindsay's land. Her ranch held the only year-round spring for miles. They rode right through her small garden, a petty display of power. "Northrop!" Corian boomed, not even dismounting. "Tracking rustlers. Saw Apache sign heading this way." "Haven't seen any," Lindsay said, stepping onto her porch, the Winchester just inside. Maddox smirked. "Funny. Sheriff Brody thought you had company." Her heart pounded, but her face was stone. He was mistaken. Was he? Corian's eyes narrowed, sweeping her property. "My patience is thin, woman. My offer for this dirt is fair. Refusing it looks foolish, especially with the Apache getting bold." Just then, the cabin door creaked open. Cole stepped out. Stronger now, his limp almost gone. Unarmed, save for his knife, but radiating a silent, lethal power that made all three riders tense. His dark eyes fixed on Corian, cold and unwavering. Maddox's hand flew to his gun. Well, well, looks like the sheriff wasn't mistaken. This is my business, gentlemen, Lindsay cut in, voice sharp. He was injured. I gave him aid. He'll be on his way. Corian let out an ugly laugh. Harboring a savage while his brothers steal my cattle? That's not neighborly, Northrop. That's treason. Cole took a slow step, placing himself between Lindsay and the men. He spoke, low and resonant. Your cattle wander. They foul the water. My people do not steal sick animals. The subtle insult hit Corian hard. A flush of angry red crept up his neck. You've got a mouth, boy. We know how to shut mouths like yours. Maddox, seeing his chance, spurred his horse, aiming to ride Cole down. Intimidation, 101. But what happened next was lightning fast. Cole didn't flinch. As the horse bore down, he moved like a striking snake, sidestepping, grabbing the bridle, and hitting a nerve cluster in the animal's neck with brutal precision. The horse shrieked, rearing violently. Maddox was thrown, landing hard in the dust. The second rider drew his pistol, but Cole was faster, scooping dirt and rocks, flinging them straight into the man's face. The rider screamed, clawing at his eyes, dropping his gun. It was over in seconds. Cole stood between the two downed men, relaxed but radiating menace. Maddox scrambled up, fury and humiliation warring on his face, reaching for his gun again. I wouldn't, Cole whispered, and Maddox froze, hand hovering. He saw something in Cole's eyes, a promise of swift, brutal violence that trumped his rage. Corian, face purple, finally found his voice. Who in the hell are you? Cole turned, his gaze like flint. Then, for the first time, he spoke in his own tongue, sharp and clear, imbued with ancient authority that made the air vibrate. Shir Nachai Mangus Bayer. Then in English, his voice resonating with cold pride for Lindsay and the others to hear. I am Nache, son of Mangus, chief of the Chiricahua. This land you stand on was ours before your grandfathers knew what a horse was. I was not stealing your sick cattle. I was on a pilgrimage to the place of my birth, alone, as is the custom. You are the thieves, Corian. You steal the water, you starve the land, and you blame us for your own greed. The revelation hit Lindsay like a physical blow. Naish, the name whispered with fear and awe across the territory. Not just an Apache warrior, but the son of the most powerful chief, a prince. He wasn't some random drifter. He was a figure of immense importance, heir to a legacy of resistance against everything Corian represented. Corian's face went pale, then hardened. This wasn't just a land dispute anymore. This was a gift from the gods. So, Corian spat, a venomous smile spreading, the little homesteader is bedding down with Apache royalty. This is better than I thought. The whole town will be interested to hear about this. When they find out you're siding with the chief's son, they'll run you out themselves. He wheeled his horse, gesturing for his humiliated men to follow. This isn't over, Northrop, not by a long shot. As they rode away, Lindsay looked at the man beside her. No longer Cole, the mysterious stranger. He was Nak, the Apache prince. By saving him, she had irrevocably tied her fate to his, placing them both in the crosshairs of a war about to ignite. The dust settled, but the silence was heavier now. Lindsay stared at Nosh, seeing him for the first time, the quiet intensity, the unwavering pride, the deep, watchful eyes. It all made sense. He carried the weight of his people. You should have told me, she said, her voice strained. Would it have mattered? He countered. When you found me, I was a man with a wolf's teeth in his leg. My name would not have changed that. It changes everything now, she insisted, gesturing towards town. Corian won't let this go. He doesn't just want my land, he has you. You're the perfect excuse to rally the town, get the army involved. He'll paint you as a spy, a raider, and me as your collaborator. Notch's expression was grim. He will not need to lie. He will create the truth he wants. His gaze drifted to the mountains. For 2 seasons, Corian has been diverting the water from the Ciénaga Creek. It is a slow trickle now, The grass withers. The game moves on. My people are strong, but he is patient. He plans to starve us into submission or force us into a fight we cannot win. Suddenly the pieces clicked into place for Lindsay. Corian's random acts, the rustling accusations, the pressure on landowners with water. It was all a sinister strategy. The cattle he claims you stole, she murmured. He's hiding them. He's creating a phantom menace to justify moving against your people and seizing the last of the free water. He builds his own ladder and calls it justice, Nosh confirmed. I came to see the extent of his theft with my own eyes. I was on my way back to my father when the wolves found me. They stood there, two impossibly different people, united by a common enemy. Despair washed over Lindsay, quickly replaced by defiant anger. This was her home. Her father's lifeblood was in this soil. She wouldn't be run off by a bully. He'll fail, she vowed. Nosh looked at her, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. You have courage, Lindsay Northrop, more than most of the men who call me a savage. It's not courage, she corrected. It's all I have left. If I run, I have nowhere to go. This land is all that's left of my family. A silent understanding passed between them, both fighting for their heritage, for their father's legacies. Corian thinks he has us trapped, Lindsay continued, her mind racing. He'll use my betrayal to turn the town against me, making it impossible to get help. He'll use your presence as proof of an Apache attack. He will send his foreman, Maddox, to watch you, Notch predicted, to ensure you do not speak to the sheriff, to isolate you completely. Then we can't be seen together, she realized. You have to leave now. Go back to your people, warn them. And leave her to face him alone? The thought was clearly unacceptable to him. A debt had been formed. I do not leave my allies to be devoured. We're not allies, she snapped, fear sharpening her words. We're a complication. The best way you can help me is to disappear. If you're gone, maybe this will all die down. It will not, he stated with absolute certainty. Corian has seen my face. He knows who I am. He will not rest. He will see this as a gift from his gods. He will hunt me, and he will use you as the bait. He was right. Corian was too cunning. Lindsay felt the walls closing in. A pariah in town, her only protector was the very man endangering her. A cruel paradox. So what do? She asked, the question heavy. I can't fight him, and you can't be seen. Nosh was silent, his gaze sweeping the horizon as if reading a secret map. There is a way, he said finally, but it is dangerous. You will have to trust me. Trust you? She scoffed, a humorless laugh escaping. A week ago, I didn't even know your name. Now I'm supposed to trust you with my life? He stepped closer, his proximity unnerving. His dark eyes bored into hers, demanding to be understood. You did not ask my name when you pulled me from the dust. You did not ask if I was Apache or Mexican or white. You saw a man who needed help. I see a woman who needs the same. My father says a man's honor is shown not by the promises he makes, but by the debts he repays. I owe you my life. I will not see it wasted. His words stripped away her defenses. He was right. Her actions had been simple humanity. Now he offered the same. It was strange, terrifying. An alliance between a reclusive rancher and an Apache prince, sealed in blood and circumstance against a common foe. What is this plan? She whispered. Corian's strength is the town's fear, Notch explained. We must show them who the real snake is. You said he is hiding the cattle he claims were stolen. We must find them. We must find proof of his lies, and deliver it not to his paid men, but to the one man who might listen, your sheriff. Brody is cautious, Lindsay warned. He won't act without irrefutable proof. Then we will find it, Notch said with finality. I will move in the shadows. I will watch. I will learn the movements of Corian's men. You will be my eyes and ears in the world of the white man. When the time is right, we will strike, not with rifles, but with the truth. She looked at him, at the fierce determination in his eyes, and a sliver of hope cut through the fear. It was an insane, desperate plan. It would demand lies, dissembling, risking everything on a man her society called an enemy. But in Nasha, she saw no enemy. She saw a warrior fighting for his people, the man who faced wolves and thugs with unbending courage. She saw her only chance. "All right," she breathed, sealing their unholy alliance. "Tell me what I need to do." Nash vanished as silently as he appeared, a ghost slipping into the twilight. Lindsay was alone again, but her solitude had changed. It was no longer peaceful. It was a siege. Just as Nacha predicted, Corian tightened the screws. In town, whispers followed her. Mr. Henderson, the store owner, barely met her eye. Women turned their backs, gossiping. The word was out. Lindsay Northrup, Indian lover, helping the Apache, bedding the chief's son. Ugly, absurd lies, but potent. Fear was a weed, and Corian was an expert gardener. Flint Maddox became a constant shadow, riding her property line with another hired gun. They never trespassed, never gave her a legal complaint for Sheriff Brody, but their message was clear. You are being watched. Every chore, every fence mended, she felt their eyes. It was a war of nerves, designed to break her, to make her sell. But Lindsay wouldn't break. She drew on the same stubborn resilience that had kept her alive for 3 years. She kept her gaze fixed on her work, denying Maddox the satisfaction of seeing her fear. Inside, however, she was a coiled spring of anxiety. Every twig snapped, every owl hoot sent a jolt. Corian's men? Or a sign from Nache? The signs, when they came, were subtle. A uniquely shaped stone on her windowsill, pointing a specific direction. A broken branch on a trail where none had been. His messages. He was close. He was watching the watchers. Their meetings were brief, perilous, in the dead of night, a mile from her cabin. He'd materialize from the shadows like a wraith. Maddox and his man watch from the ridge to the east during the day, he whispered. At night, one circles south. They are predictable. They're trying to drive me mad, she confessed, the strain evident. Their minds are small, Notch replied. Not an insult, just a fact. They think in straight lines. They believe that because they cannot see me, I am not here. Lade. In these stolen moments under the cold stars, their alliance deepened, forged in shared danger and unspoken respect. She told him of the rumors, of Brody's weary neutrality. He taught her his language of the land, to read tracks, to understand a bird's alarm call. She began to see the man behind the prince, the sorrow in his eyes for his lost land, his fierce love for his people, the immense pressure of leadership. One particularly biting night, she offered him her blanket. He hesitated, a simple gesture crossing a boundary. He was the protector, the phantom. Accepting her comfort was an admission of vulnerability. Slowly, he took it, wrapping it around his shoulders. The rough wool carried the scent of her cabin, wood smoke and lavender. Thank you, Lindsay, he said, her full name feeling strangely intimate in the vast silence. Corian is getting impatient, she whispered. He's planning something. I can feel it. He is, Natcha confirmed. I followed one of his men. He rode north towards the old box canyon by Skeleton Creek. They are moving the stolen cattle there. The box canyon. Lindsay's blood ran cold. Perfect. One way in, one way out. Easily defended. Brody would need an army. He is not just hiding them, Nasha continued. He is rebranding them. I found the remains of a fire. He is burning his own brand over the originals. He means to sell them at the next auction in Tucson, claiming they are new stock. Here it was. The proof. But it was trapped in a rock fortress. How do we prove it? She asked, her heart sinking. No one can get in there. You are wrong, Nacha said, his eyes glinting in the moonlight. There is a way, an old hunting trail my grandfather used. It leads up the back of the canyon wall. A man can climb it, but it is treacherous. From the top, you can see everything. A daring, impossible plan began to form. He would guide her into the heart of the enemy's camp. I have to be the one to see it, she realized. It has to be my word. If you are seen, They'll call it an Apache raid. They'll dismiss everything. But if I see it, if I can describe the brands, the location, Brody might just believe me." Natch was silent, jaw tight. The risk was enormous. He would be leading her into unimaginable danger. If caught, Corian and Maddox would not be merciful. "It is too dangerous," he said, his voice taut. "It's more dangerous to do nothing," she insisted, her whisper fierce. "We have no choice. This is our only chance to expose him before he starts a war." He looked at her, his intense gaze seeing not a frightened woman, but a resolute partner. He saw the same fire in her that burned within him. Her father had said a steady hand was worth more than a soft heart. Lindsay Northrop, he realized, had both in equal measure. "Tomorrow night," he said, grim finality in his voice, "when the moon is new, I will meet you at the 3 cottonwoods by the creek. Bring nothing that will make a sound. Wear dark clothes, and pray to your God that the sentries are lazy." The night was starless, absolute, a black velvet cloth draped over the desert. Lindsay met Nash by the cottonwoods, her heart a frantic drumbeat. She carried only a knife and a small journal. He emerged from shadows, a silent phantom, giving her a single, sharp nod before leading the way. They moved through the treacherous landscape in focused silence. After an hour, they reached the base of the canyon wall, a sheer black cliff scraping the sky. It looked impossible. "The trail is here," Nash whispered, a breath in her ear. "The handholds are old but deep. Place your feet where I place mine. Do not look down." The climb was a waking nightmare. Not a trail, but precarious ledges and cracks. Nash moved with unnerving, fluid grace. Lindsay followed, muscles screaming, fingers raw, focusing only on his dark shape, clinging to his quiet instructions, trusting him with every agonizing inch. Finally, they hauled themselves over the top, collapsing onto the canyon rim, gasping for air. Below them, a fire flickered across the narrow box canyon. Corian's operation. 2 guards slouched by the fire. Deeper in, a large herd of stolen cattle milled restlessly. As they watched, one of Corian's men pressed a glowing branding iron to a calf's flank. The animal's pained bellow echoed off the stone walls. This was it. The proof. With shaking hands, Lindsay opened her journal. She sketched the camp layout, the guards' positions, the damning detail of Corian's lazy C brand being burned over another rancher's mark. Notch lay perfectly still beside her, his gaze sweeping the canyon, a silent, watchful guardian. He pointed to a dark cave mouth high on the opposite wall, where Flint Maddox's silhouette kept watch. They remained for almost an hour, Lindsay filling pages with evidence. "We have what we need," Nash finally whispered. "We must go before the sky lightens." The descent was even more terrifying on exhausted limbs. Once Lindsay's foot slipped, sending a cascade of pebbles into the darkness. She froze, heart stopping, but the sound was swallowed by the immense silence. At the bottom, they didn't stop, moving swiftly to put distance between themselves and the canyon. As the first hint of dawn grayed the eastern sky, they took shelter in a ravine. Lindsay sagged against a boulder, trembling with adrenaline and fatigue. "You were brave," Notch said, rare praise in the quiet morning. "I was terrified," she admitted, breathless. He knelt beside her, gently taking her hands. They were scraped and bleeding. With a tenderness that seemed at odds with his warrior nature, he took a pouch from his belt and applied powdered herbs to her wounds. His touch was both a comfort and a spark, an unspoken acknowledgement of the profound trust now between them. In the crucible of the canyon, their alliance had forged into something far deeper. He released her hands, his expression urgent. "You must go to the sheriff now," he commanded. "While their guard is down, show him what you found. I will stay hidden, but I will be close. If they come for you, I will be there." Lindsay clutched the journal to her chest. Her body ached, but her resolve was steel. She had faced the devil in his canyon and returned with the truth. Now she had to pray it would be enough. Lindsay didn't hesitate. She rode hard for Serenity's Peak, the rising sun at her back, the journal in her saddlebag a heavy, hopeful burden. She ignored the hostile stares on the main street, dismounted, and strode directly into the sheriff's office. Sheriff Brody looked up, wary. "Lindsay, I hope you're not here with more trouble." "The right kind of trouble, Sheriff," she said, her voice clear and steady. She placed the leather journal on his desk, flipping it open. "You wanted proof. There it is." Brody's eyes scanned the pages, detailed sketches of the Box Canyon, damning drawings of altered brands, meticulous notes. He traced a JB brand, grim recognition dawning. "John Peterson's brand," Lindsay stated flatly. "Stolen by Bart Corian. He's holding them in Skeleton Canyon right now, rebranding them for the Tucson auction. It's how he's been running off small ranches and blaming the Apache for years." The sheriff leaned back, the evidence undeniable, yet politically explosive. "This is his word against yours, Lindsay, and he practically owns this town." Before she could argue, the door burst open. Bart Corian stormed in, face purple with rage, Flint Maddox at his heels. "Brody, I want this woman arrested!" Corian roared, pointing a trembling finger. "She's a traitor! We have a witness who saw her last night sneaking around the North Range with that Apache prince of hers. They're planning an attack." Sheriff Brody stood slowly, his hand resting on his pistol. His gaze flickered from Corian's desperate fury to the open journal. In that moment, he saw the full picture. "I don't arrest people based on your shouting, Bart, but I will be riding out to Skeleton Canyon to investigate a report of stolen property. And you," he added, his voice like cold iron, "are going to come with me." Corian paled. "That's Apache land. It's not safe." Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside. Maddox peered through the window, his smug demeanor vanishing. "Sheriff, you better see this!" At the edge of town stood Nosh. Behind him, in a silent, disciplined line, were 24 Chiricahua warriors on horseback. They were not painted for war, but sat with powerful stillness, their presence an undeniable statement. At their head, an older chief with a face like weathered rock watched the town with ancient, knowing eyes. It was Chief Mangus himself. They had not come to fight, but to bear witness. The sight broke Corian's nerve. "An invasion!" he shrieked, eyes wild. "They're here to burn us out!" He drew his pistol and aimed it at Lindsay. "It's all your fault, you—" The gunshot was deafening. It was Brody's. Corian cried out, staggering back, clutching a bloody shoulder, his pistol clattering to the floor. Maddox lunged for the door, drawing his own Colt to rally a mob. But as he stumbled into the street, his path was blocked. Notch had dismounted and strode to meet him in the center of the dusty road. Maddox raised his pistol. Notch's knife flashed in the sun. A single shot went wide as Notch's blade struck with disabling precision, and Maddox collapsed, his gun arm useless. The confrontation was over. In the stunning silence, Sheriff Brody and his deputies arrested the whimpering Corian and the injured Maddox. Then, Brody walked alone to the center of the street, where he was met by Chief Mangus and Nache. An understanding was reached, not a treaty, but a recognition of the truth. Corian's crimes were exposed, and a fragile peace, born from a shared desire for justice, settled over the valley. The water in the creek was freed, and the shadow of Corian's greed was lifted. Days later, as twilight painted the sky, Nacha came to Lindsay's ranch a final time. "My father sends his gratitude," he said, his voice a low rumble. "He calls you woman of steady heart. And you?" she asked softly, her own heart a tangle of pride and sorrow. "What will you do?" "My path is with my people," he answered, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains. "The world is changing, and I must help them walk it." Their separate futures stretched before them, a canyon they could not cross together. He was a prince of the wilderness, she a queen of her solitary ranch. He stepped closer and took her hand, his touch warm and firm. "You will not be alone, Lindsay Northrup. My people will not forget. The watchers on the mountains will know this is a place of friends." With a final, lingering look that spoke volumes, he mounted his horse. He didn't vanish into the shadows this time, but rode tall and proud toward the horizon, a leader returning to his destiny. Lindsay watched him go, the Winchester a familiar weight against the cabin wall beside her. She was alone, but no longer lonely. She had her home, her honor, and the respect of an Apache prince. In this unforgiving land, that was more than enough. And so, the incredible story of Lindsay Northrop and the Apache prince comes to a close. It's a tale that reminds us courage isn't about fear's absence, but acting despite it. It's about how one brave soul can expose deep injustice and change history for an entire community. Their bond, forged in violence and secrecy, crossed a deep, often bloody divide, proving that honor and respect aren't bound by race or station. It's a testament that even in the most lawless times, the most powerful weapon can be the simple, unshakable truth. This story asks us, what would you risk for justice? If Lindsay's incredible bravery captured your imagination, please hit that like button, share it with someone who loves a truly gripping drama, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more untold tales from the frontier. Your support makes these stories possible. Thanks for listening.